is this righteous judgment? Is this country practicing righteous judgment when it comes to immigration? The answer is no. But from their end, it's the best they can do. Jesus said it, not me. He says, do not judge according to appearance. And yet, everything we're talking about, don't get me wrong, but what we're talking about is judgment on appearance. And Jesus says, don't do that. Well, I know that's what you said, Lord, but this is what we're going to, so why do you call me Lord, Lord? What is that about? You say Lord, Lord, but you're not under my lordship. And what I'm saying is that as long as we could admit the government is not under the lordship of Christ, that the government is making unrighteous policies, and the church is the only one on the planet that's going to call a government out and say this is unrighteous. Now, I'm not saying that there's much we can do about it other than when we get into conversations with people, or if we can assist, if we have whatever, we can do some things. But please, let's not agree with the government that they're right. They're not. This is the way I tend to think. If it was an open door policy and there was a greater effort put into receiving everyone, mentoring them in such a way, being involved in their lives in such a way, whether you plug them into a community, I don't know what you do with them, but you connect them relationally to people, that would never work. Why? We haven't tried it. It seemed to work, to be honest with you, it seemed to work for hundreds of years. We had a lot of European immigrants come in that ended up, somehow they ended up going to night school and learning the language and becoming, somehow it worked before. Well, now it's different. I'll tell you what's different now. We're afraid of them. And fear is driving our decisions, not trust in God. We're afraid what will happen, instead of saying, well, the way you drive out fear? We know the scripture. We quote it every Sunday practically. Love drives out fear. What if the church rose up in love and said, okay, so this guy, he's a Muslim. He belongs to ISIS. Keep him out of here. That's not what Jesus says at all. You'd have a very hard time scripturally and spiritually as a Christian supporting that. It makes good sense, but it's still fear-based. See, wisdom, Jesus said a wise man is one who hears my words and does those. So it's really hard to gravitate towards wisdom and say, well, I find that to be, good wisdom. I'm all for, we talked about self-defense. But what I'm saying is that when the church crosses that line of qualifying who to feed, who to clothe, once you cross that line, it's really, really hard to step back. And all I'm saying is there is a line. And we would be hard-pressed as Christians to say, okay, so I want to protect over 300,000. And by the way, it's interesting that we immediately think in terms of, I want to protect those by keeping people out of our country. And the problem here, and you know it, the problem here is that we've got all these kids coming from broken families. We've got all these young men on drugs. We've got poverty. We have got so many things driving the testosterone of a teenage boy. Besides mental illness, we've got so many problems that are driving it to all of a sudden say, it's that Muslim over there. If we don't let him in, it's crazy. I'm just saying, because you can tell I'm probably out of my mind a little bit here this morning. It's really, really bothering me the way we're looking at things as Christians, the way the world does. Yeah, and my goal is not that we all necessarily agree and see it the same way. I see it like this, that Jesus said an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth doesn't work. And when we treat people who basically we're afraid of, we can call it what we will. To be honest with you, if we're honest with ourselves, we're afraid. And that has a lot of different meanings to it in terms of our trust in God, wisdom, whatever it might be. But there's a fear of what will happen when these people that we're trying to demonstrate the love of God, but you're going to come after me, I'm going to come after you. That just doesn't cut it. The jihadists, whatever you want to call them, when they see us acting like them, which you're basically saying there's really no difference between us, and last man standing wins. Jesus is saying that doesn't work. That doesn't work at all. There has to be a development, a relational development, like Sine is saying, where you get to know people. So let's take that into, yes, we have personal responsibility, like you said, I would agree with you.
That's really.
Yeah, but the church, I go beyond that, because I think what happens then is that we can almost see the church as, kind of like, well, it's a church. No, let's look at it this way. Suppose, how many Christians are there in America that go to church on Sunday morning? I don't know. Anybody have any idea?
It's a lot.
I don't know. A million?
100 million.
100 million. Okay. What would happen? I'm just curious. What would happen is if we emptied the churches totally and said, buildings, we're not going to do this thing that we've been doing. We are going to volunteer. We're going to try to organize ourselves in such a way that we're going to approach the government and say, listen, the next Syrian you get in, I'll take him into my home. You don't have to vet him. You don't have to do anything. I'll just take him. Do you think we have enough Christians in America to receive all the strangers that want to come here? I guess that's my bottom line. Immigration is greater than the Christians?
I think so.
I don't think so, but it would be interesting. I didn't even look this up. I have no idea. My question is, I guess basically, not to you personally, but our church ethics, if you would, or the way we look at Scripture, or the way what we believe Jesus, who he actually is, was, whatever. When we take all of that and really put it into practice, is there any reason for anybody to be hungry? And the answer is no. I've just got this very, very sneaky suspicion that the church could accommodate whatever needs to be done. Now, Carol and I have had this conversation, and she says, well, yeah, but Jesus, she told Judas, the poor will be with you always. And I said, well, isn't that a nice little out? Well, there you go. We don't have to worry about poor people. They're going to be there anyway. It's kind of, and that's not at all what Jesus was saying, by the way. When you read the text and you see what Judas was inferring and Jesus is saying, well, you're in good luck. Today's your day. You're interested in feeding poor people? Brother, you have got a lifetime of it. Go have a field day. He wasn't sanctioning poverty on this planet. And I've just got this funny feeling. I remember in England, they did this thing one year. They wanted to try to alleviate poverty in Africa. Not the whole world, just Africa. This is like child's play. Seriously, if you're willing to write a check, this is child's play. We can get rid of that poverty. We can put them to work. We can send people there and teach them how to farm. We can build houses. We can do so much. We can do it. We ain't going to. We're not going to. So let's just admit that is a call that we're not meeting. Can we agree to that? That we're called to it, but we've said, We don't even want to get into that conversation, and the church hasn't. That's all I'm saying. I am absolutely convinced that issues that we are facing, the church has the answer to. And I think that any lack that we have, I've just got this thing that God will supply. I really believe that if we would take the step, that God would supply. While we're getting fascinated by gold teeth in people's mouths at meetings. Woo! Woo! And meanwhile, somebody over here is starving to death. I don't even see him. You got any gold teeth? Well, I don't want to be coming to you if you don't have any gold teeth. Gold dust coming down in sanctuaries, and that shows the presence of God, where Jesus says, I was hungry. And you'll know me because I'll come down in gold dust. So you'll know I'm in the room when the gold dust falls. That's really not what he says. He says, I was right in front of you. I was hungry. Because see, the only criteria that appears to be, and I'll let you, the only criteria, if you notice, you were good to my son. So we didn't recognize your son. So that's what makes the righteous so beautiful, is that they didn't know it was Jesus. And they just went ahead and did what they could.